subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, leave a comment, and thank you for enjoying the video.
All right, welcome to the Kings of Causeway podcast, part of the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. This is the first live podcast post game one of the first round of the playoffs for the Bruins. The Bruins just absolutely kicked the shit out of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Cannot state that enough. I am your host, Pat Berg, joined as always by Ryan Coffey. Ryan Coffey is joining us from the Mohegan Sun, where he has been gambling on this game, been gambling on behalf of other things, and all that good stuff. So he may be in and out, but that is all right, because we are here to talk everything about game one. Coffey, can you hear me? All right, maybe he can't hear us, and that is okay. Game one of the... Oh, there he is. Can you hear me? Ryan Coffey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I tried to link my buddy's AirPods last minute. Didn't work out.
That's all right. That's all right. The things you do for the boys are noted. But all right, so here we are. We know that you're at the Mohegan Sun. We know that you've been watching game one. I call game one an ass kicking. Is there any other way to describe it there, buddy?
I mean, that's a beatdown. That's the way you prove the point. I'm not gonna lie. If we were still doing our game prediction, I would have guessed 4-1. So Frederick had to spoil that with the fifth. But our legs were moving, man. We took it to them. There was really never any hope for Toronto tonight. So that's the game you want to see us start off at TD Garden.
All right, so I want to talk to you a little bit about that no hope for Toronto, because at the end of the first period, it was 1-0. I called Jim the Chow, my dad. I call him, and I bring up just the... I don't fully understand how a referee crew misses two pretty major hits to the back of the neck and then just sends both people off. And then obviously that leads to Lindholm drawing the penalty at the very end, leading to a 4-on-3 when it was still 1-0 in anybody's game. It seemed like a time where other Bruins teams, other teams in general, might have just been like, well, woe is us. We're done here. The world is against us. We're gonna pack it in. This team didn't. This team was like, fuck you. We're going to kill off this penalty, and we're going to go and shove 4 more goals down your throat in the second period. What were your thoughts at the end of the first, beginning of the second?
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed. I think to your point, our legs were moving, so it was already kind of, there are a couple bad calls, and yeah, we could have flopped over and kind of said, hey, the refs are screwing us again, but instead we kicked it up a notch, and honestly, our legs were moving. You could tell everyone was really skating. Everyone was putting in 100% effort. I mean, I don't know if you saw the stat, but we danged 3 posts in the first period. So, yeah, it was 1-0. It could have easily been more. I feel like it was a hell of an effort all around. Definitely good.
Yeah, it's one of those where I feel like, and we both grew up playing sports. And there'd be like feelings in a game that wouldn't necessarily match what the stats said. Like, for example, in this game, you hit 4 posts in the first period. Like, what are the odds you clang 4 irons and none of them go in? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that never happens. Like, that should have been more. So I love the intensity that this team came out with. I thought that they came out ready to fire, ready to fight. Which I was talking to the Chow earlier, and it was like we were going to know in the first 10 minutes whether or not this Bruins team was ready for this series or not. It was going to come down, like we were going to know whether or not they were mentally there or we're going to need a jolt. And I think they were mentally there. What about you?
I think they were mentally there, and I mean, we talk about momentum. I feel like nothing gives you momentum to start off an entire, Stanley Cup run than Pat Maroon's line on the fourth line just going absolutely.
Sending him to the bench, buddy.
I mean, we talked about the depth that we have across the third and the fourth line, but for that line, to be fair, they were kind of tossed together last minute going into this game. I mean, for them to get the first one, that's just icing on the cake. And then for Maroon to throw a guy into the bench and watch half our team dump him back over the boards, I mean, that's something that you can't really buy. That's something that the reason we brought Pat Maroon in, right? For him to do things like that and for our team to rally around. And I mean, couldn't have been a better start than that.
Yeah, I agree. When Maroon dumped him into the bench, and you see some vets kind of do the thing they're supposed to do. They back up and they say, "Whoa, that was nuts," but you see the guy come in there and just throw the right hand and just be like, "Hey, get the fuck out of my bench, bro." And it's one of those like, yeah, a young guy gets away with that. Like he does. He does, but it instills to me what that says is that the entire locker room is just kind of standing there looking for hey, we're to fuck with you. Like you're not here to come in and have a friendly coasty ride. Like if you want to play playoff hockey in Boston, you're gonna get your shit kicked a little. And that to me said all I needed to see about what this bench was feeling about this playoff series. This was not something that they were taking for granted, not something they were taking lightly. And I honestly love to see it. And then they just compounded on it in the second and then in the third.
Yeah, 100%. And not to mention that first goal was against like Ryan Reeves' line, the fourth line of Toronto.
Yeah.
Which, proves a big point, right? It's like, okay, Reeves, if you can come out and drop the gloves with us, you might win there, but you're not winning on the score sheet, which is just, I don't think Maroon's in the same shape where he could really take Ryan Reeves at this point, but just having him out there as a physical presence and us saying, hey, you can try and fight us, but we're going to put up 5 goals tonight across the entire roster. It wasn't one line, right? It was like
right.
Everywhere
exactly.
we put up. So, yeah, I mean,
and it was one of those ones, within 45 seconds, Max Domi had hit Brad Marchand across the back with his stick. Like we're in 1995 WWF. Like he's cracking a chair over his back. Like no call, no nothing. Just like, hey, that's how it's going to be. And we're going to move on. And instead of getting rattled, the boys were like, okay, fine. We're going to play some physicality. Okay. We'll ride that line then of playing physical, but also our fourth line is going to score the first goal. And also our fourth line is going to shut your entire first 2 lines down. What do you like that was, to me, that was one of those just like, all right, here we go. Toronto again, folding into their fucking turtle shell.
Yeah, and as much as I love the physical stuff, it was good to see Marchand kind of take that and prove it on the score sheet instead of going out and doing something stupid after that. I think he had an assist, maybe 2. Like I said, I was watching from a dinner, so it was a little hard to see watching from the phone at the dinner table. Don't tell the birthday man I was doing that, but yeah, it was. I mean, every aspect of our game, you could tell we were moving. Marchand did the right things. The fourth line did the right things. Like up and down the board, we really took it to him. And shocker, I want to take it back. I know you and your dad called for Linus Ullmark, but it was very interesting to see Swayman in there tonight. He said he had
Yeah.
Toronto's number, and he had it again.
No, it was one of those. As soon as I saw that come out on the sheet, it was about the same time I saw the William Nylander news. We'll talk about that in a second. But honestly, as soon as I saw that like Swim was getting the start, it was one of those, like we said, like I totally understand where Monty's coming from, putting Swayman in there. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. He is our goalie of the future. He has a hell of a good record this year against the Leafs. Can't be mad that he's in there. And he honestly stood on, like, he proved it. He was like, hey, this is why you put me in there. Now, I will say, I hope that Monty goes with his projection of like, hey, I'm gonna rotate these guys because I think that brings the best out of both of them. But I mean, Swayman got the nod in game one, and boy, oh boy, if he didn't put his stamp on like, hey, this is why I'm the number, I'm here to play. I'm fucking good.
Yeah, and I said, like, when we were making our comparisons, I think all three of us said it doesn't really matter which one goes. They're both excellent. But I think getting the win the way we did with Swayman and net, you go to Omar game 2, which is whether we win or lose, it makes Swayman come back game 3 hungry to just kind of stand on his head again. I feel like he has all the confidence right now. Whether he gets the game off or doesn't, he's ready to come back with game 2 or game 3, just ready to rock, I feel like.
No, I agree. All right. I know we got a big win. I know the numbers are going to largely favor, the Bruins in this one, but it wasn't all necessarily roses, especially in that first period. It was close. What are some things you've seen from this Toronto team that was minus a William Nylander? Now we don't know whether or not that was a coach's decision, whether or not that was a legitimate injury. What's going on? It was surprising to a lot of the folks. Nobody really knows what's going on with him, but to me, I look at this game as like, this isn't how Toronto's going to be over 7 games. What are your thoughts on that?
No, that's fair. And we talked about it going in that Toronto might have a little bit of rust because of the way they're going to have to rotate injuries in the lineup. Nylander was out, but Domi was back in. I could be wrong, but I think, what was it, Morgan Riley or defenseman was in, 44 for Toronto.
Yep.
He was in tonight as well. So I feel like they had a few guys that haven't played in a couple games. They looked rusty, and to your point, I don't think it's going to be as easy of a cakewalk come game 2 or game 3, but we just took it to them. Whether they were rotating in guys or not, they have to step up too, and we ultimately took it to them.
Yeah, it's the Nylander news was really surprising. I think a lot of people tried to do some last minute journalism and become expert sources on like, oh, it was this, oh, it was that, oh, he was playing, but he wasn't playing with enough heart, so he got benched for performance reasons, or he got benched for discipline. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I haven't a clue. The fact of the matter is Toronto is worse with William Nylander not in the lineup. If he's hurt, as shitty as it sounds, awesome. From a Bruins perspective, like that's great because he makes that team that much more dangerous and that much better.
We talked about it. We talked about Toronto having to front load their lineup, and first line's there. If you take Nylander out of the equation, you're stuck with
the second line's gone. Like their whole second line's gone.
Bertuzzi and no one that can put the puck in the net or
and we saw from Tavares today, he's soft.
Yeah.
Like he's soft. He's soft. He's out there joshing with the guys at the commercial timeouts. Like, I'm sorry, this is the playoffs. Like, this isn't the time to be laughing it up and yucking about with the people on the ice. Like, if you want to fucking win this, go fucking win it. Mentality is a lot of this in hockey, in my opinion. So
I will say it's good to see us kind of like Lindholm stick it to Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Walk away for more money. It's like, hey, you picked the wrong team, buddy. Go to Toronto.
Yeah. No, big. When that Tyler Bertuzzi penalty happened, and I was looking around and I looked around at my wife, who does all the socials for this pod, so fucking love Tessa. But I just looked at her and I was like, this guy's like, he was on this team last year and he really thinks like this is the kind of shit that's going to get them wrong. Like no, like you fucking threw a high stick. They're not going to they're not going to come to you and give you a matching penalty there. And we know the refs are dying to give matching penalties in that situation.
Yeah.
We saw that at the end of the first period. The refs are dying to give matching penalties. And for the most part, the boys were like, I'm not going to give it to you. Which was huge.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, buddy.
Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Technical difficulties.
So it's just one of those, when you look at what
there we go.
At what Toronto brought, it didn't seem like a top to bottom playoff ready team. Like they seem shaky. And that's something that I think that the Bruins just need to exploit and take advantage of and go and crush them.
Yeah, I mean, we called it out early. I wanted Toronto before they could get hot. I think it's a mental thing. They did not come prepared. They looked like they've never seen a playoff game in their life. I think, if they made it past round one, they might come out a little bit differently in games like this, but they were not ready to come out. And we took advantage. We looked like the team that's been around this block a few times. So definitely. Yeah.
I know. I asked you before the game. I had my pick of sweaters of who I was going to wear. I asked both you and the Chowd. Y'all both independently came up with Jake DeBrusk. I had also pulled out Jake DeBrusk. And so I rep JED, and that motherfucker, put up 2 goals. Probably put out a third if he was out there with an empty net. To me, when I was watching this game, this was about a lot of variety in the Bruins game coming good. And stepping up and saying like, hey, I'm here for the playoffs. I'm here to, it wasn't 2 guys that were just dominating. Like, yeah, sure, Jake DeBrusk might have got his name on the score sheet a bunch of times, but like it was a lot of people that fed into all of that. It didn't feel like a superstar won the game. It was the team that won the game. And I just want to know from your side, listening without necessarily some volume, like, did you feel like this was the team that won, or was there an individual that stood out?
No, I mean, like I said, I was watching from a phone at a 30th birthday party dinner at Mohegan Sun, and I could tell just by watching the small clips that we had our pedal to the metal. Like it wasn't individual effort. It was very clear that every person was skating 200%. You could just see us. We won every battle to the corner. We won every battle to the first puck. Our forechecking was impeccable. I mean, from where I was sitting, I couldn't tell what number was on the ice. Obviously, I've watched them a while, so I could kind of tell who was who. But for the most part, it didn't matter. You saw every single person in the Bruins jersey beating Toronto to a puck. Couldn't ask for a better effort. Everyone was on that score sheet. Never mind, everyone was working their ass off.
Yeah, I felt the same. It was one of those, after a lot of times this year, after a goal, you'd see a shift that went like flat. They didn't have it. They didn't, for whatever reason, they weren't able to capitalize. This seemed like a team that was, hey, we scored and we're gonna keep driving the pressure home where it matters. And the playoffs really is where you need to see that. Like, it doesn't matter if you can do that in November. It matters if you can do that in April. It matters if you can do that in May. And this team, to me, showed a level of ruthlessness that I think a lot of us were not concerned, but were interested to see whether or not they possessed. And it damn sure looked like they did. And by the end of the game, like, Toronto didn't look like they had anything. They looked like they were beaten. They looked like they were flat. And if that continues into game 2, and no one's saying it will, but if it does, this could be a shorter series than a lot of people predicted, because I don't think you can get crushed 2 games in a row on the road and then come back and just because you're on home ice be like, oh, we're better now.
No, if Toronto's going to keep playing like they did tonight, then we're going to be looking at a 4-game series or 5-game series where maybe, they steal one off some power plays that we took too many or something like that. At this point, they do not look like a team that can beat us 5-on-5 or grinding this out in a series. So, again, like you said, a lot of teams can go into game 1, get a wake-up call, and come back completely different. But, at this point, Toronto does not look like a team that can take it to us after game 1. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. Moving on to some other league-wide questions. Did you have a chance to watch the Islanders-Carolina game or get any feedback on that at all?
I did get a chance. Unfortunately, I left when it was still 1-1. I thought the Islanders were outplaying them until it seems like the second I didn't watch that game because obviously the second I walked away from the hotel room, it sounds like Carolina took it to them and beat them 3-1. So interesting. I actually took the Islanders tonight in a bet on the money line because I thought they might be able to take it to Carolina early.
Well, they sure looked like they could, and for large swatches of that game, it looked like that Long Island was gonna come out over Carolina. Obviously, in the end, they didn't. But I think that is going to be a much more interesting series, a much more tantalizing series than people might be thinking. Which obviously matters because at some point we're going to need to overcome other teams in this conference. It doesn't just end with Toronto. For me, Carolina is one of those teams that they went all in this year. They've decided this is the year they're going to go all in. And from that first game against the Islanders, it doesn't necessarily look like they're this juggernaut team, which reinforces what you and I have been saying for weeks and months of this is a wide open East. And this is a time where it really is going to come down to health and goaltending. And boy, oh boy, does our goaltending look like it's going to just keep going where it's been going, which is the best goaltender tandem in the league.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, after tonight's performance, just solidifies. I mean, if Swayman can stand on his head, Allmark can do it the next game. That's an advantage we have. Watching the Islanders and Carolina game, the one thing I did like to see, Islanders have been our kryptonite in the past, but Carolina was kind of splitting them open on defense a little bit on like the rush. I mean, watching Beecher, Boakfist, them fly by people tonight, I feel like we'd figured out the Islanders. We would figure them out in 7 games if for somehow they did win that series. Carolina, we've had their number for a while. I feel like we can take it to them. They have a couple bigger bodies that you might have to worry about, but I'd be happy with either of those teams after this as well.
Yeah. I mean, last point on game number 1. I think this Bruins team recognizes what it means to play with the Spoke B on the chest in the playoffs. I think they came out understanding what that was going to mean. And I think they came out and they executed on that. And I genuinely think that this team is ready to shoulder the responsibility of taking the hopes of Causeway into late April, May, and June. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but boy, oh boy, was this one of those ones where when we scored early and then scored again and then scored again, I was like, okay, this is a team I can trust my heart with a little bit. They seem like that team that can at least shoulder that responsibility. What were your thoughts initially on this game 1, which we all know is reactive and can go either way?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think we did the right things to start with. We came out like our legs were moving. I mean, it's a game of momentum. The first goal in an entire series can mean a lot. So to see it come from our fourth line again, it goes that much further. They had juice, but then it gives them that little extra boost of like, all right, our fourth line scored. If we can all just go out and do our jobs, we have a good shot of winning this game. Like you said, it cascaded. I mean, I obviously I was watching from a dinner table, but I just kept watching it go up 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. Couldn't ask for anything better, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those. Watching the game live and listening to it, it seemed like one of those. Every line that went out there did when the lines are going out there or doing the commentators are saying, hey, they need to do X, Y, and Z, and then it was like, oh, line did X, Y, and Z, and then oh, they need to do A, B, and C, and it's like, oh, they did A, B, and C. It's like, okay, they understand, they know what they have to do, and I know that this is a deadly Toronto team. I know that this is a Maple Leafs team that has it in them to completely take over a game at zero notice. Like, they have that talent. But I think this is a huge reminder to the locker room that, like, hey, they might have that, but we have the capability to completely and totally shut them up. They can do nothing.
Yep.
We can shut them all the way down.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't think that a William Nylander completely changes that arithmetic. This is
It's a replica of the regular season. We talked about, we had the recipe. We took the recipe and built on it. And Nylander coming back I think it would change a little bit because we'd have to, be a little bit more defensive heavy on that second line. But it's not going to make a difference if we're scoring up and down our first through fourth line.
It's one of those where I felt like no line felt overburdened, overmatched, like they just played the way they were doing. Like, if I can compare it to anything, I just compare it to a Joe Rando Bruins game in February. Like, if you were to tune into Bruins versus insert team here, like, that's what you saw tonight. This is what the Bruins can do to any team. And it just so happens it's happening in the playoffs, but like this was not an unusual thing. I wasn't ever at any point sitting there being like, oh my God, they're doing something nuts. I never knew they could do this before. Like, it was just like, yeah, they're fucking playing stout defense. They're getting scoring from the depth players, from the star players, from all the players. They're killing off penalties, and the goalie's on top of his stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and so for me, it was like, all right, if we can win just playing normal, that's great, because they just threw arguably their best. Like, yes, Nylander, if he's not hurt, can come back. But if he's not hurt, then why wasn't he playing? And is that a chemistry issue? Like, you just threw your best shot and got punked. I'm not worried.
Yeah, and I feel like we just really, the way we played defensively too, like I couldn't see the finer details of everything in the first period and a half, but it looked like, from my perspective, one, I think we blocked quite a few shots. I'll have to look at the stats, but it seemed like we blocked a lot of shots, and two, a lot of the shots were coming from outside the slot. Like, we didn't really give up too many dangerous chances where I was sitting there like, oh shit, this is a goal. I can maybe count it on maybe a handful of times where it felt like they could even have a chance of scoring. So it was more of a team defensive effort tonight too, which we called out last week, earlier in the podcast this week.
Yeah, no, agreed. It like a couple of their best opportunities came when a shot got blocked in a funky way and dropped to somebody, and then they had a second chance opportunity that Swayman shut down. It was never it never felt like, wow, we're really riding our luck here. Like, we don't deserve to be like this. They should have scored 5 or 6 more goals. Like, There were a couple of absolutely phenomenal saves that Jay Sway made in the first period. I don't want to take away from him at all. But this was not one of those ones where it's like, wow, I don't know how we won that.
Yeah.
This was we won that.
To your point, he made some great saves. There could have been one or two more for Toronto, but we hit 3-4 posts. Like we could have also had 7.
Could have been more for us. It could have been. Yeah. It could have been 9-1. Like,
yeah.
I mean, just an absolute stellar performance. And as we know, an important performance for the fans in Boston. You can't come in game 1 at home and lay an egg. You can't. The pressure then mounts to an absurd rate. So coming in and really kind of laying the smackdown on Toronto here, I think leads into Monday night. And kind of helps give everybody in the room top down like that confidence of just like, hey, we did it. We got the initial monkey off our back. Now we go out and play. We're better than them. We know we're better than them. We know we're better than them in the regular season. We know we're better than them in the postseason. Let's just go keep being better than them and grind this out. And hopefully it doesn't take 7 games. And everybody else does go 7 games. They beat the hell out of each other, and we just get to pick up the scraps. Because it's about time we've earned a, hey, we're just picking up the scraps series.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, Pat, I'm being summoned back to birthday, but I want to leave you with my final thoughts here. And this team capped off the season by what they did tonight, which has exceeded my expectations. I feel like the last 2 games of the regular season, I was a little concerned, but at the end of the day, I said, they'll figure it out. I did not really see us coming out the way we did tonight and kind of just completely taking it to them. Like, tonight left 0 question marks in my mind that we can sweep the series. We can win this series 4-1. So as long as we keep playing like this, I'm happy. Maybe we can preview the Tuesday game on Tuesday as well before. What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we go back Monday. But maybe you and I can maybe we go live Monday and we can talk a little bit about it then. I will let you get back to your birthday. Great win for the boys. Go take a shot for me. I know I've been taking shots for every goal like I do. As always, we appreciate you guys following us on at Kings of Causeway on Twitter at BSDN_617 on Twitter and on YouTube. We will see you guys again after the next game, which is on Monday. Hopefully another Bruins win. Till then, I've been Pat Berg. That is Ryan Coffey. Coffee, go take another shot for me and then call me later, buddy.
I'll take a Jaeger instead of green tea. Let's go, Bruins.
There we go. All right, buddy. Let's go, Bruins.